The month of August is back to school, so we have decided what better focus to make this month's podcast than on young ladies who are running after their God given callings. This month, we are bringing together powerful women of God to the Unashamedly You podcast. And no matter what your age, I know that you are going to be so blessed by everything that these incredible ladies have to say. Hello, and welcome to the Unashamedly You podcast, a space to enlighten, encourage, and empower you to go out and unashamedly be who God is calling you to be. I am your host, Jamie Herndon. I pray you hear less of me and more of Him as you listen to today's episode. Let's grow together. The girl I am bringing on the podcast today is far more a part of the Unashamedly You community than most of you probably know. If you've listened to my recent podcast called Becoming Unashamedly You, I talk about chatting with the girl, telling her what I had in mind for a company. And this girl actually comes up with the name of the company. It was so amazing how it happened, but she gave us the name. And she created the first logo we ever had, helped with the color palette, designing the original graphics. She helped so much in getting this company, Unashamedly You, started and off the ground as a whole. And I'll forever be grateful for her. So thankful that she did that. But I'll tell you, I reached out to her originally because of the excellent work that I had seen her do through her own company. She is young, fun, bubbling with personality, and just an amazing young lady that I know so many of you are going to glean from. She does not allow age to slow her down or get in her way. And most of you may know who she is by what she does. But Valerie, in the owner of the Valley Collective, welcome to the Unashamedly You podcast. Introduce yourself to us.
Well, first, thank you so much for letting me be here. This feels like such a full circle moment because I remember being back in the first stages of Unashamedly You, talking with you, coming up with the name and everything. And now look at where it's at. And this is just unbelievable. So I'm so excited to be here. My name is Valerie Mendoza. I am 24 years old. I'm from Lake Charles, Louisiana, and I just recently got engaged. So the Valley Collective, in a short word, would be a boutique, but I wouldn't necessarily classify it as just a boutique because it's not your typical boutique. But it started out as custom stationery. My main focus is office stationery, but I do other stationery as well. Um, that would be notepads, notebooks, planners, pens, stickers, all the fun stuff. And recently, I say recently because it hasn't been a year, but I've added a clothing side to it. That's where the boutique comes into it. But it's kind of like an all you need, one stop shop kind of fun little thing that. And I was 22 when I started the Valley Collective.
Well, that is so much fun. What I love about the Valley Collective is it is fun. It's like fun colors. She uses like a lot of flowers and all the fun girly stuff. And I am very much a girly girl. And
Oh,
I love
yes.
all those things. It's a lot of fun. I love it. So, entrepreneurship sounds like a blast, but keeping a job is actually a lot easier than going out and grinding. And it can be lonely, and not a whole lot of people talk about the lonely part of being an entrepreneur. So, you were young, getting a business started. Were there ever any lonely moments in getting started with your business? Didn't you have a degree for this?
Yes, I actually forgot to mention that earlier. I was going to mention that I was a college graduate. So I went to school, I got a degree in graphic design, and then school ended. And typically at the end of college, at that time, everybody's got a plan. They've got a job lined out. They've done internships. They're ready to go straight into the workforce and like what was put into them at college and put it straight into their career. Well, as a graphic designer, and within the few years before I had graduated college, I knew I was going to have my own business, but it was just trying to figure out, how it was all going to work out. So by the time college came to an end, everybody was ready to go to the workforce, and I was kind of just chilling there. I didn't really know what my next step was going to be, and I didn't really know how to do it because I still had friends in college. I had friends that were already on their career path, And then there was just me. I'm not going to say by myself because my friends were still there supporting me, but I was the only one in that situation as well. So trying to navigate that, I had tried a job, just like working, trying to figure out what I could do. My family actually owns a rental company. I tried to do some work for them the summer I had gotten out of college, and I just knew, as easy as it was to just have something to do every day, I knew that wasn't where I wanted to be because it just didn't really fulfill me. And I knew I never wanted to live under what I could be.
I love that whenever you say living under what you could be. There is a potential that we all know is deep down in us and within us. And it's easier to settle for what is now instead of pushing that potential of what we could be and not settling and going after those things that God has put in us. So whenever you got your degree and your friends are all getting a job, but you're going to start your own business, how did that work out? What did you do to get started?
So, like I said, my family owns a rental company. So I've always been around people owning their own business because I just grew up working there. My grandparents worked there, my mom, my uncle. It's just kind of the deal. So I'd always been around that. And my mom is my number one advisor. She's the smartest lady there has ever been, really. And so she knew that this was what I was desiring to do. That was just everything I wanted. She knew that. And she had been knowing that. And I had been talking to her, and just all these ideas that were in my head, I would just talk about them. That was all I would talk about. And she would know that. And actually, the way it all started was I was actually in Little Rock. So my sister lives in Little Rock because got married and moved, left me. No, just joking. So she got married and moved to Little Rock, and I was actually up there visiting her, but it was for Mid America conference at your church, and we were there. We were just chatting. It was just me, my mom, and my sister, just chatting, doing the girl things. And my mom just looked at me because I was talking about it again. And she was like, "What are you waiting for?" And I was like, "I just don't feel like I'm ready." And at this point, I had already had my branding done because that's what I went to school for. So my branding was done. I had my name, I had everything already complete, everything. So she's like, "What are you waiting for?" And I'm like, "I just don't feel like I'm ready. I don't feel like I have it together." That's what I kept saying. And she was just like, "Val, you're never going to feel like you have it together." She's like, "You're just going to have to start." And I was like, "But what if it doesn't work?" She was like, "You're never going to know unless you try. You just got to start somewhere." And so at that moment, we had been discussing some Christmas time coming up. And I had seen some ornaments, and I was like, "Oh, I want to make some ornaments." My mom was like, "Well, why don't you start there?" And I was like, "I've never made an ornament in my life." She was like, "You just got to start somewhere." So I was like, "Okay, I'll do it." And I looked at the calendar. That was a Friday or a Saturday. So not the next Monday, but the following Monday after that was November 1st. And I was like, "I'll start November 1st." I just chose a day, and I was like, "That's it. Whether I feel ready or not, November 1st is the day." And I had 8 days, 9 days, whatever that would add up to be, to get myself together because I was starting it on November 1st. So I ordered all the stuff that I needed. We ran to Hobby Lobby. I was grabbing stuff. And when I got home, all my stuff was there, and I just got started making ornaments. And then November 1st came, and I put it out there, and that was the starting point of the Valley Collective.
So much fun. I remember whenever you started that and you put the ornament out there. And then last year I ordered an ornament for Unashamedly You. So it is definitely a full circle moment talking about the ornaments. So you already had your branding, the name, all those things. Most people do not have that part yet. Like I knew what I wanted to start and I didn't even have the name. I didn't have the branding, didn't have anything, but I'm like, I've got this calling, this dream of something that I want. But you had all that and then you got busy, got the name, got everything, and you still didn't feel ready. So if you're listening to this and you don't even have the logo and the branding and you're like, that's what's going to make me feel ready, you never feel ready, no matter what all you have done, no matter what you have together. But your mom's advice was very sound and very wise. You just have to get started. You never know if you never try. And at some point, it's time to just jump off the bridge and pray for a lifeboat to catch you.
That's exactly right. Okay.
So you get started with the ornaments and you put that out there. And where did you go from there? What did you do next?
So after the ornaments, I knew that that wasn't something that would carry me all year round because they're obviously not needed all year round. So I kind of had to quickly figure out what my next step would be. Now, I knew what I wanted the Valley Collective to be, but I just had to figure out how I was going to get there. So I knew that I wanted to do stationery, custom stationery, because I love stationery. Like anytime I go to a store, first section I'm going to is the stationery section. I'm going to look at what notebooks they have, what planners they have, what pens they had. That the first place, I still to this day do it. I'll go look at everything they have. So I knew that that's what where I wanted to take this, but I had no idea where to even get started besides making a design. I can make the design easily, but I had no idea how to get them printed. I had no idea where to get them printed. I had no idea what that consisted of. I didn't even know a price point. I had zero idea, zero plan, but it was too late. I had already started. So I just kind of had to go with it. So I started doing research. And one thing college did teach me, especially with a graphic design degree, was how to research. And I probably spent days on end researching. I researched every place that I could find that met all my needs. I wrote in a notebook every price point there was, the quality, everything you could think of. I had read it, I had looked at it, and I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'll make one design, one notepad design, get it printed, and we'll go from there. Because I was taking baby steps at this point because I had no idea. So I did that. I designed a daily planner and I got it printed. And I said, when Christmas is over, that's when I'm releasing this. So I released it in January of 2022. And by the end of January, I had sold out of all of that notepad. And I was like, okay, maybe I could do this. So by mid January, I was like, oh goodness, I have to figure out what I'm doing for February because once January was over, that was it. So then I was like, okay, maybe I do another notepad. So I designed a weekly notepad and I was like, when January ends, I'll release this weekly notepad. And that's just kind of where I had set my pace at the beginning. Now, quickly after that, it picked up. But for starting points, that's kind of where the stepping stones were for me.
So you did ornaments for December, a notepad for January, another notepad for February. Did you decide these well in advance, or January was coming and you're like, oh, I got to come up with something? And you're like, oh, February's coming. I got to come up with something else. Or did you think you would start month by month with a different product?
Well, really, if anybody knows me, the best way I know to describe myself is a planned, spontaneous person. I know typically you would not hear that in the same sentence, but I love a plan for anything. Daily plan, a trip plan, a business plan. I love a plan, but I also love a spontaneous moment, whatever that may be, whether it's something you last minute decide or you just seen something, you're, oh, I'm going to go do that, whatever it is. So that's kind of where I was at with this. I knew what my big plan was, my long term plan, but I didn't know what my little steps, my little plan was going to be to get there. So it was more or less like, oh, January's ending. What's happening next? Until I kind of got in the groove of it. And then I was able to adjust to be able to plan better. But starting out, I definitely did not have it all together. It was very much a, oh, this is coming up quick. I need to quickly figure out what's coming next.
That's funny. So you said January, you completely sold out of your planner. Did the same thing happen in February?
So for February, actually, that did not happen. I don't know the exact number, but I maybe sold half. I don't even think it was half of what I had ordered. And that was actually the first quote unquote low that I had experienced since I had opened the Valley Collective. Because up until that point, everything had gone better than I had planned or expected. But with any entrepreneurship or business, stepping out on your own, there's always going to be some type of low or something happen that you weren't expecting. And that was the first time I had ever experienced that.
That is definitely just a part of business. There's really high highs and there's really low lows. My mom and dad have always owned their own business. And my mom would always say that owning your own business is feast or famine. It's like you never can live in the middle of that. So you had experienced that low, but was there ever a time that you wanted to quit, throw in the towel and be like, look, I'm just going to go get an 8 to 5 job and forget owning this business and doing this on my own?
Honestly, I think at that point, it was already in my mind that this is what it was going to be for me. I heard a thing one time, or somebody say, I'm sure many people have heard it in some sense, but they say, if quitting is an option, you'll always quit. And I knew once I started, quitting could not be an option. So no matter how low it got, or how unorganized I felt, or if I didn't even know what my next step was going to be, I knew that in my mind, the quitting mentality could never enter, because as soon as it entered, it would fail. So I couldn't look at it as a failure. I kind of just had to look at it as a learning curve.
That is so true. If you've thought about quitting, you've already quit. The thoughts of
Exactly.
that has already put that into your mind. So just saying, taking quitting off the table and diving right in. So you have now ran the Valley Collective for, I guess this November will go into 2 years that you have gotten started. What is something that you would say to someone that is wanting to get started with their own business?
I would say to be confident even when you don't feel confident, because if you know this is what you're supposed to do, you always have God confidence. It's okay to feel that you're not ready. It's okay to feel like you don't have it together. It's okay to feel like you don't even have the plan. But if you know that that's what you're supposed to do, God gives you the confidence to move forward and take those big steps and take the leap of faith. God gives you confidence through being his child and doing and following what he is telling you to do.
There's been so many times in my business personally and the things that I have done where I always fall back on I know I'm not enough. Like, I know that I cannot do this without God's help. But it's something about us telling him that and us revealing that to him, like saying, God, I am not adequate. I'm not able. I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, I've prayed many prayers and just tell him exactly how I feel. Like, God, I'm horrible at this. I absolutely stink. I do not know what I am doing. And it's like God, every single time, He will boost your confidence through prayer. That's one way that
Exactly.
you can definitely get some of that God confidence is when you start praying. But when you jump out, you take a leap of faith and you start owning your own business, you'll find a prayer life really quick.
That is true.
So you were 22 whenever you got started with the Valley Collective. You've only been doing this for 2 years. But we can learn a lot in those 2 years. What are some things that you have learned in opening your own business, being a young entrepreneur? You said you were newly engaged. Congratulations on that.
Thank
But
you.
you're not married yet. A lot of people, they'll think, oh, I need to wait till I'm 30. I need to wait till I have some experience. I need to wait till I'm married. Like we start putting off these things and these callings and these dreams that we have on all these other things that we've got to do in life. But you didn't do that. You got out of college and you jumped in with both feet. What are some things that you've learned by doing that?
If I let me not being ready for something hold me back, there's going to be so many things that I miss out on in life. If I had let me not feeling ready hold me back from starting the Valley Collective, who even knows if that would have been started now? So that's one of the biggest things I've learned, because that applies to so many areas. It could apply even in church things, being a Sunday school teacher, playing the piano, singing, being a greeter. You're going to be like, oh, I'm not ready. I don't feel like I could teach kids. I don't feel like I'd be able to get through the song, or whatever the case may be. If you let that hold you back, there's going to be so many things that you're going to miss out on.
You got started with your business only being 22 years old. You're young and it can be costly to start a business. How did you manage all of that?
Really, I feel like by now people understand a little bit about me. I am a planner, but I am a spontaneous person. I knew that this was coming, but I never had a job in high school or college. I only worked a little bit for my family's business. just to get a little bit of money to pay for food and other necessities. And if I did my money right, I could fulfill some wants as well. But I never had a job. My parents told me as long as I was in school doing what I was supposed to do, they would take care of my bills. That's how they supported me while I was in school. So I never had a job to have a savings to give me all this money. So what I did when I graduated college in May of 2021, I took all the money that I was given as graduation gifts and I just set it aside because I didn't have anything I needed to spend it on yet, but I knew there would be something in the future that I would need. So when November 2021 came around and I was needing to buy this stuff to get the Valley Collective started, I was like, you know what? I'll just take my graduation money, dump it into the Valley Collective, and let the cash flow get started there. I just took the little bit of money I had from graduation and just dumped it right into the Valley Collective, and that's it.
I love that. So you did have a little bit of a plan in there, like you said, but you didn't know what it was going for. And that's a wise move for a young person. If you're listening to this, you haven't graduated high school yet, or you are in college, you haven't graduated college yet, even if you've got birthdays, anything like that, saving it up because one day you might need it to start
You'll
that
need it.
business of yours.
Exactly.
So this has been so good. I know that someone listening to this has been encouraged to jump out and to just get started. But what is something that you would say to the Unashamedly You community as a whole that's wanting to go after their calling and just get started?
I know that starting a business is not everybody's calling, but everybody does have a calling of some sort, even if that is just to be a saint going to church. And the Bible talks about whatever thy hand findeth to do it with thy might. And another verse says, and whatsoever ye do, do it heartily as to the Lord and not unto men. And that just, to me, tells me that it doesn't matter what the Lord has for me to do, I need to do it with all my might. Whether that's owning a business, whether that's being a musician, being a singer, being a Sunday school teacher, this goes across the board. It doesn't just work for people running a business. And really, if you can keep that mindset of doing whatever you're going to do with the spirit of excellence, I really do believe that the Lord blesses that.
So true. That is something that if we can learn from the very start, the spirit of excellence, doing everything that we have with all of our might, that's what God blesses and that's what God expects. He expects us to do that. He gave us a scripture for it. He told us how to do things. He told us how to run our businesses or how to run our lives. And it's to do it with all of our might. And you've definitely done that with the Valley Collective. There's no doubt that God is blessing it because of it. So, TVC is a relatively new business because you've only been in business for 2 years. So, I know that you had mentioned earlier that you have some big plans. What are some of the things that we could expect to see in the future for TVC?
So some of the biggest things are still unknown because they're unknown to me as well. Because one of my favorite things about TVC is how spontaneous I am able to be. Because if I see an opportunity, I will hop on it so quick. If I feel that it's right, I will hop on it so quick and make it TVC. But some other things is right now I am loving where I'm at with sweatshirt designs. If you saw me at Peak, then you know what I'm talking about. So I'm definitely right now in the era of going down that lane. So new designs of everything and definitely new products. I've had a lot of people ask about phone cases. This is very specific things, but this is TVC for you. So phone cases, different apparel items. There's also an adjustment period since I will be moving. So who knows? Maybe a brick and mortar store is in the future for TVC.
Well, I definitely cannot wait to see those things come to pass. And I did see you at Peak in the adorable sweatshirt designs. And my daughter, if anyone knows her, is so tiny. And there were no smalls left. And she was so determined to get one. She bought a medium because oversized sweatshirts are the thing. And I'm like, Ana, I think a small would have been oversized on you, but let's go with it.
Hey, she can grow into it.
she I don't know if she'll ever grow into it, maybe when she's 30. But she loves it. And she got so many compliments on it. In fact, her aunt said, I bought mine that fit. And I wish I would have done like Ada because that is so
Hey,
cute, that
there
oversized.
you go.
So oversized sweatshirts are quite the thing
Hey, they are in.
in an Arkansas summer. An oversized sweatshirt is still the thing. So you definitely have a market all year long for sweatshirts. I didn't realize that would be a thing, but here we are. So I cannot wait to see what all comes about with TVC. I know that there's going to be some awesome things that we can look forward to with that. And I can't wait to see those. What is one last thing that you would leave with the Unashamedly You community as a whole?
The last thing I would leave is I would just say go for it. I know that there's so many people that they're just like, it's just in their mind. It's just going, going, going. It's all they talk about, it's all they think about. And all you need is one last push. So if I can help anybody, let this be your push. Just go for it. Do it with God confidence and let the Lord carry you and just never let quitting be an option.
Love it. Someone listening to this right now, you know that that last piece was for you. You know that you were supposed to go for it. And I want you to leave us a review, message us, and let us know if this has helped you because I know that it has helped me. She has said so many things that have been very helpful. And I know that it's been helpful for you guys too. So thank you so much, Valerie, for joining
Yes,
us
thank
on
you.
the Unashamedly You podcast. You're definitely a special part of this community, and we are all grateful for you.
One last thing for those of you who made it this far, as a thank you, go shop the Valley Collective at thevalleycollectivela.com and use code UY10 for 10% off of your purchase until August 31st.
Well, thank you so much for offering that to our listeners. I know that I, for one, am definitely going to hop on there. We may need some of those sweatshirts because it actually is starting to get cooler weather. So thanks for the coupon code for our community.
Yes, ma'am. Keep up with us on Instagram because sweatshirts should be restocking in about 2 weeks. And I'll have the date posted in there as soon as I know.
That is fun. Thank you so much being on here, recording for us, giving us all these tips and these nuggets that we can take to start our own businesses or whatever the Lord is calling us to do it with the spirit of excellence, and for being on here today and giving us a discount to shop. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Unashamedly You podcast. We have great news. If you're an apostolic vendor wanting to promote your product at the Unashamedly You conference, we have now opened up a few vendor spaces. Just go to unashamedlyu.com/event to get the details. We cannot wait to see you guys at the Unashamedly You conference this September 22nd and 23rd. And we have a promo code for you podcast listeners. Check out using the promo code UYPodcast for 10% off of any ticket. Come expecting to be enlightened, encouraged, and empowered to live the life God is calling you to live unashamedly. As always, if this podcast blessed you in any way, please go share it to your social media, leave us a review, and subscribe so that you get the notification every Friday when our new episode releases. Go be unashamedly you.